there we go. And so we'll have a backup copy. And usually the way that the workshops unfold is that I will do the demonstration and I'll show you all of the steps to make the bag. But you don't need to feel like you have to sew along with me, because people do sew at different speeds. And I also have some steps completed ahead of time so that I can show you how to do it. But you'll have the video that you can use for reference afterward, and you can make the bag at your leisure. And I'm also going to be sending Galina a printout that, that she can distribute to people who came to the workshop or those who couldn't make it. And these are fully illustrated instructions that walk you through all the steps I'm going to show you today, all the measurements, everything is in here. So you can really just relax and watch the demonstration and ask me any questions. And there will be time at the end too. So you can ask if something comes up, just put it in the chat box, Galina will see it, or raise your hand, as she said, or at the end, there will be some time as well. Okay, so ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let me first show you the project that we're making. It's a summer reading project, and it is the bandana beach bag. Here's the sample that I made. Mine is 2 different bandanas on each side and then ribbon for straps. If you wanted to make yours all in one color, you know, that's fine. You're sewing, so you're the designer. It's up to you. But it's a nice sturdy bag. And let me go over what you need in order to make it. Okay, so first of all, of course, you're going to need a needle. And I like the ones with the long eye just because they're easy to thread. But if you have just a regular needle, that's fine too, don't worry. You'll need some ordinary thread, all-purpose thread. If you have some embroidery floss or craft cord, that's fine too. You'll need something to mark your fabric with. I'm going to be using chalk, but you could use a pencil, a pen. You don't have to go out and get anything fancy for it. I'm looking for one other thing here because we'll do a little bit of measuring. So you're going to need ruler. And then, of course, something for your straps. And I'm going to be using this cloth ribbon. It's vintage ribbon from the 1970s that I found. So I'll use that. It's kind of cool. Pair of scissors that can cut fabric. If you just have paper scissors, that's okay too, but it'll be a little bit slower to cutting. And let me see, and then a few pins, okay, just a couple pins. And then of course the bandanas, okay? And you need 2 bandanas. Again, they can match or not match. And the bandanas can be, is that a regular sewing needle that I put up? No, that's a big sewing needle. I made dolls before, so I have lots of big needles. And that one is just so you could see the eye really well. Okay, my other needles are normal size. Okay, so this bandana is 22 inches square. And I'm going to show you how to make this so that you can make the bandana a smaller size and make it stronger as well, because bandanas are thin. You know, you can almost see through them. So we're going to do some clever folding, and it'll make the sides strong so that it will actually hold the book when you take it to the beach. Okay, so let me start off. I'm going to put the camera down so you can see my workspace. And off we'll go. Okay, and Galina, when I have the camera down like this, I actually can't see the questions. So if you can just...
Yeah, I have it up. So I'm monitoring it.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to start off with this green bandana. And again, from one corner to the other corner is 22 inches. Okay. And we need to make this 14 inches to be a good size for a bag. So what we'll do is just fold one edge in like that. I'm trying to make sure, okay, so I'm folding it in, and that is about 4 inches. You put it this way so you can see, okay, from the corner, from the edge to the fold, about 4 inches. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we have 4 inches there, okay, about. And then another 4 inches on the bottom. So if you do the math, of course, then you have 22 inches minus 4 inches minus 4 inches equals 14. And then we're going to fold the 4 inches up at the bottom as well. Okay, and then we'll put a pin in these sides just to hold it on the 3 sides, leaving the 4th side untouched for right now. Okay, and I always demonstrate pinning because nobody was born knowing how to do it. So this is the sharp part of the pin. That's not sharp at all. And you'll just put it all the way through to the other side and then bring it up so that the head and the tip of the pin are on the folded side. Okay, and we're going to do that on the 3 sides that we have folded. Okay, here's the last one. Okay, and now we're going to stitch this in place. We're going to sew it down using some big stitches, really big stitches called basting stitches, but probably bigger than, if you know anything about sewing, bigger than even basting that you're accustomed to, okay? But in order to do that, we need to have the threaded needle. So let me also just demonstrate threading the needle. And again, just in case somebody has never done it before. So here's another giant needle that I have. And this is for making teddy bears, right? And then I have some craft cord. Get a piece here. Okay, that I will use. It's nice and bright, this orange, so you can see it. And of course the eye is here at the top. This is the sharp part. I want to avoid that. So you'll just push the thread through the eye of the needle, or if you have a needle that has a super small eye, you can use something called a needle threader that will help you with that. It has this nice big part that you can hold on to that's very stable. And it has a little wire loop on the end. I don't know if you can see it well, but you just take that loop and you put that through the eye of the needle, right? And then you take your thread and you put that through the loop like that. So it just kind of hangs down. And then you can pull the thread through the eye of the needle that way, okay? So that's half of it. Now your needle is threaded, but you still need a knot so that your stitches don't come out. And there's lots of ways to make a knot. I do the kindergarten style one because it's the one that works for me. So you just even up the 2 pieces of thread, wrap them around your index finger like that. Take the thread and ends and bring it through that loop like that, and then just pull, and you'll have a knot and a threaded needle. Then you're ready to sew. Okay, so let me put the camera down again. Okay, so I'm going to start off with these super big stitches, okay, that I'll start on one side. Let's be on this side here. And I'm just going to sew from this corner, let me get in the frame, there we are, from this corner all the way down across the fold and to the bottom corner right there. Okay, so let me show you what I have in mind. We'll start here. I put my needle all the way through both layers of fabric, right, and pull it until the knot stops the thread. right? And then I'm gonna go over 3 or 4 inches, or maybe 2 or 3 inches, I should say, and bring the needle back up. And then the same thing, we're making super big stitches. There are not that many opportunities that you get to make big stitches like this, but it's just gonna hold this in place temporarily while we're doing our other sewing. Okay, now I'm at the pin. I can take it out because the stitches are holding my fabric in place now. Here's another big stitch. I'll show you what this looks like on the other side. So it should look something like that. Okay, and then I'm coming up through the corner where the fold is. There we go. Okay, and I want to be sure that all the stitches are nice and flat. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to make a knot so that these stitches don't come out. And it just so happens that my needle came up on this side. It doesn't really matter whether it's on this side or this side. Okay, and to make the knot, you just make a little stitch like that. Okay, tiny little stitch like that. Pull your needle so that you get a little loop like that. Take your needle and put it through the loop and then just pull down and you'll get a knot at the end that will secure your stitches. Okay, and then you can cut that thread. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing on the bottom edge. Okay, and here I have some bright orange, same thing, starting kind of anywhere on the fold. Pull until the knot stops the thread, and then carry on right across and just checking from time to time, I can take that pin out now, that the stitch is flat. Okay, and it's just a good habit to get into. You'll be doing it again on other things that we're sewing. Okay, so once you've got this done, this part, okay, make sure my stitches are good, nice. Okay, so that's just holding everything in place, and you can see that it's making the bag smaller. Okay, so let me make the bandana smaller. Make the tiny stitch, hit the loop, and needle through the loop to make the knot. Okay, so we've got 2 sides done, and then you would do the same thing on the 3rd side. Okay, but the 4th side you're leaving open for the time being. Okay, so I have another sample where I've started that here, this dark blue. So I've sewn down one side with the big stitches across the bottom, and then up the other side with the big stitches. Okay, so then at the top of the bag, I want to fold over just about 1 inch. Okay, so not a big fold like we've done here, not big, but just a little one, about 1 inch. And we're going to stitch this down now with a more traditional sewing stitch. So I'm going to put a couple of pins in here just to hold it in place. Okay, and I'm going to grab some gold thread, which will show nicely on this. Okay, and we're going to now sew with a smaller stitch. So I'm going to start the same way, pull until the knot stops the thread. I'm going to cut off some of this just so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, and then I'm coming up much closer to where I started. Okay, and maybe just about 1/4 of an inch, your stitches in terms of the length, with 1/4 of an inch or so in between. Okay, and I'm sorry for the way that I'm moving the fabric around. Everything for me is backward, so I have to adjust as I'm going. Okay, but definitely stop me if you're saying, you know, if I'm sewing along and you hear me talking and can't see anything. Okay, so you're just going to continue going across and pulling your thread each way so that you have nice flat stitches on both sides. Let me straighten one out there. There you go, because you might get that too. Okay, and just continue along. And this stitch here is called the running stitch. This is the stitch that most people know, even if they think they don't know anything about sewing, they still have an idea of how this works, and it feels kind of natural. It feels like a reasonable way to attach two pieces of fabric together. Okay, so you'll just do this. When you get to the pin, you can take it out, not because you might hurt anything, except for yourself. That's mainly the reason that I take them out. So you might get poked, and I'm trying not to do that. Okay, and as you sew along, you'll find that you actually don't have to pull the thread all the way each time. You can go in and out like that and pull and make a stitch that way and just continue along. And it makes the sewing a little bit faster, although, you know, there's never a need to rush. And you'll be sewing with regular thread rather than craft cord probably. So I'm doing this so that you can, you know, really see it well. But when you're sewing with regular thread, it goes even faster. It's even easier to pull. Okay, and once you get used to it and you get the rhythm, you'll find you can put more than one stitch on the needle. And whoever asked about whether I had, whether that was a regular needle, even these are embroidery needles. So they're a little bit longer and a little bit thicker than normal needles. And that's just, of course, so that they'll hold the floss so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're almost across. Okay, checking again. I always check to make sure that it's looking nice and flat. Okay, and just heading towards the end here. And just in and out. That time I think I got 3 stitches on. Okay, we're almost at the end. Okay, there we go. So now it's going to be the same old drill. We will make sure everything's nice and flat, and then make a knot on whichever side that your needle comes out on. It doesn't really matter. This is not going to show. This part, your stitches will show, but the knot won't. Okay, so little stitch, get the loop, needle through the loop and pull. Okay, then we can cut those. Okay, so at this point, we're actually ready to put on the straps. So we grab one, okay, and we put the straps on. When you're sewing, everything is a little bit upside down and backward because you're constructing something, but you know, from the inside out, more or less. So we're going to put the strap on this way, heading downward first, but you'll see why in a minute. And your mark your indication for where the strap goes is where the fold finishes, right? So it's going to be about 4 inches from the edge, and you'll position your strap so that it is a little bit below the edge, the top edge of the bag. Okay. And then we'll put a pin there to hold it. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing, making sure that we don't twist anything. Okay, Galena, I see somebody in the waiting room. Okay. Same thing on the other side. Thank you. Put the pin in like that. Then we'll fold this up this way, and that will give a little bit of extra strength to the strap now too, because it's doubled, right? So I'm gonna pin here, and it will also hide all of the raw edges of the ribbon if you have that. Some ribbon is finished on the edge, but in this case not. I'll put my pin the same. Okay, so it should look like that. And now we're going to sew this in place, and we're just going to sew a little square right on the strap. And I like to make a little sewing line for myself, and I'm going to use chalk for that. Let me see if this really, I think that'll show up pretty good. Okay, there we go. Just a little square. And this is kind of a path for me to sew on. Okay, as I go. So there's one on that one, and then one on this one. Okay, here's the square. Okay, and now we'll stitch this on. I've got some blue thread that I think will be a good contrast. Okay, so to sew this, you'll just start in one of the corners. Okay, doesn't matter which one. Put your needle in and pull it all the way through so it's going through everything. Again, till the knot stops it. Let me cut this off so that you can see everything.
Ellen, are
Yeah.
people in chat asking, can we slow down a little bit?
Okay. Yes. Okay,
So
I'll slow down,
okay.
but do remember that you'll have the video afterward, because there's some steps that are already completed, and also I have a bunch of threaded needles already. So you'll have to probably stop to thread your needles too if you're sewing at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to sew around the square, and I'm going to do it on both of them. So that'll give also a little bit of time. Now that I've got my first stitch in, I can take the pin out. Okay, and I'm just going up and down on the line that I made. Okay, there we go. Just got caught on the pin there. Okay, Galena, maybe you can ask, or I'll ask, what step are people trying to sew along, and what step are they up to? Or is there something they didn't understand?
Well, feel free to put it in chat or unmute yourself and ask questions.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just turning the corner there and sewing across. Let me make sure I'm in the frame. There we go. when you're doing this part, sometimes it's easier also going all the way up and all the way down as the way to make the stitches, because there's a lot of fabric there. You can take that pin out. Okay, and let's look on the other side and see what it's looking like. Okay. Move that out of the way. Okay. Okay, so now I'm at the corner again. I'm going to turn.
Ellen, can you please explain about the strap? What kind of strap we can use?
Sure, you can use, what I have here is cloth ribbon, but you can use any kind of washable ribbon that is at least 1 inch wide. And these measurements are in the instructions. Okay, so there we go. This one is about 1.25 inches, right? So at least 1 inch wide and 20 inches long.
So it's not wired ribbon, it's just regular ribbon.
Just regular ribbon, right? No wire in the sides. Okay, and one thing to know, if you have wired ribbon from the holidays or whatever, you can pull the wire out of the sides. Okay, it's like a nylon. Just cut the ribbon and you'll see that you can pull that wire out, and then that ribbon is fine if it's washable, because you might want to wash this. If you don't think you will, then it doesn't matter. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to make a knot again, the exact same way. Okay, there's my loop. Oops. I only went through one side of it. There we go. And pull. Okay, now one thing on this, when you're putting the straps on, you do want to have your knots on the inside so that it looks nice and clean on the other side. Okay, let's do the other one. Okay, I'm making another knot just like I did before. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing here, starting on any of the corners. With the knot on the inside. Okay, pull until the knot stops the thread, and then we'll just do our stitches around. Okay, I'm going to clip that extra so that it doesn't cloud the vision. There we go. Okay, and let me know if there's something that you are unable to see also, because I can try to adjust that too. Okay, I can take this pin out now. Okay, we're going to come down this side. Checking, nice and flat. Okay. Whenever you have a lot of fabric, like the 2 layers of the ribbon and the 2 layers of the bandana, going up and down with your stitches makes it a little easier. Okay, across now. I can take out this pin here. Okay. And now up the last side. Okay, and I'm going to make this stitch on the inside. I mean the knot on the inside. So that last stitch comes up on the inside. Little stitch, pull the loop down and the needle goes through. Okay, and then you'll cut the thread. Now, at this point, it's actually going to start looking like a bag a little bit, right? So let me just bring the camera up so that I can hold it up for you. Hey, hello. Okay, so that is the inside of the bag. You can see all of the folds, and that's what it looks like on the outside, right? With the little bit of stitching that we did across the top and the stitching that holds the straps on. Okay, so you'll do the exact same thing to make the other side of the bag. Okay, so you'll have 2 of these when you're all done. And that's what I've done already. So let me get the other side so you can see it. I'll put the camera back down. Okay, make sure and let me know if there is a question. A little further. Okay, so here is another one that I've already done. Okay, here's the strap. Here's it sewn on. In this case, I used a gold thread. Let me see if I'm trying to get too close. I think there you can see. Okay, and what you do is you take the 2 sides of the bag where you don't have the fold. So this is the outside of the bag. You should be able to see your folds, and you're going to line those 2 pieces up. Line up the edges so that they match more or less. But the place where you really want it to match is up here at the top. Okay, so you can see where the straps are, and you want to match this corner right here as much as you can. There we go. This corner right here. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin here to hold it. In and out like that. Okay, and then on the other side, do the same thing, match that up. as much as I can and put the pin in. Okay, so it's matched up as much as I can. Then we'll put the bottom and sides of the bag together too. So here's the side, and I'm going to pin there in the middle somewhere. And then you might find, like I have here, that at the bottom of the bag, it doesn't quite match up. You can see that the purple, the lavender, is longer than the blue. That's okay, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and pin the bottom. You only are concerned about it matching at the top. If it doesn't match at the bottom, that's okay. Okay, so we'll put a pin to hold it there. Then I'm going to come over to the other side and put a pin in the middle. And a pin at the bottom. Now in this case, the two are matching nicely. Okay, it just means that I folded it a little bit different on the two bags, on the two sides. Okay, but it's all going to work out fine when we stitch it together. Okay, and then you can make a line for yourself with some chalk or whatever you have. I'm going to use this pink chalk this time. Okay, and you can just eyeball this. I'm making the line so that it's about a finger's width from the edge. Okay, so about as wide as my finger. And then just draw your line all the way down. Okay, and then across. And you just want to be sure that if you have uneven edges, oh, gotta go. Okay, well, you'll still have the video. Thanks for coming. You just want to be sure that wherever you put the line is actually going to connect the two pieces together. So with the line here, when I sew it, they will connect. Okay, and then the last one. Okay, you're just doing this on 3 sides, of course, not up at the top. Okay, so now we're going to stitch this in place. Let me see, what color do I have? I guess gold again will show if I have one. Here we go. Yeah, that shows up pretty well. Okay, so you'll just start at the top. Again, you're trying to match the top edge, because that's the part where you'll be able to see it. Okay, so you're matching the top edge. Sorry about that, I'm in the frame now. And you see the needle's going through both layers. Right, pull until the knot stops the thread. And then come over, and we're going to just do our regular traditional size of stitch. You take the pin out all the way down. We're heading all the way down to the bottom. Okay. There. It's so confusing with everything being opposite of how it looks to me when I'm looking down at this. Okay. And by this point, you will have gotten kind of accustomed to the running stitch. So once you get off of where there are of the folded area, then you can go back to going in and out and pulling like that to make your stitches. And also, if I didn't say it already, when you're sewing with just regular thread, which you wouldn't be able to see if I were doing that. It will be a lot easier than pulling the cord or floss. Okay, and you can try putting more than one stitch on your needle. Now, here's a couple. Okay, check to make sure it's nice and flat on both sides. And just keep going. Okay, it can actually be a little bit like meditation when you're just sewing in and out and just kind of enjoy the process. There, I think I have 4 stitches maybe on the needle that time. Okay. There we go. Sometimes you can pull the fabric back too, and it's easier than pushing the needle through. Okay, don't need that pin anymore. We're about halfway. Almost to the end. And of course, this is just the first side. You would do this on all 3 sides. Okay, I have a little bubble right there, and it won't matter. I'm just being a little bit OCD here. There we go. Okay. And now when I get to the place where all the folded fabric is, I want to go back to doing the stitches up and down, just because it's thick and there's a lot of fabric there. So it's a little bit easier on me, my fingers, and will make sure that I have a nice strong seam here, which is what it's called when you sew 2 pieces of fabric together. That's the seam. Okay, now here, even though I'm almost to the end, I'm gonna go ahead and make a knot. I'll come up on this side. Just because I don't want to run out of thread, because if you are sewing and you don't have quite enough thread on your needle, it will be super hard to make a knot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make my knot and cut this off, and then grab another needle and finish up. Okay, even though I only have a little bit to go. I'll use this needle here that's got some extra thread that seems like it's just long enough. Okay, so if you do that, here's where I stopped, right? So I'm going to start where I would have been making my next stitch anyway. Okay, so right there, and down, up. Now I can take the pin out. Okay, and some people ask why I take the pins out. It's not like when you're sewing on a machine and you might worry about breaking a needle or something like that. I just take the pins out because I don't want to be poked with them, although you always get poked a little bit when you're sewing. Okay, so now I'm at the end because I've connected all of the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and make the knot, and then I'll show you really the last step. Well, almost the last step. Okay, so we'll cut that. So that's one of the 3 seams, right? And then I have my last sample here with the yellow and white. And I've already done 2 seams. So I've done the bottom. I've done the bottom and one of the sides here. And so I'm just going to do the last side, and then we'll turn it right side out. Okay, so there's not a pin up here at the top, so I'm going to line up the edges again carefully and pin that. Okay, make myself a quick sewing line. And again, I'm really just eyeballing it just to give myself a little path to stitch on. Make sure all my fabric is flat. Okay, and I have this magenta thread. So I'll start here. There we go. And just stitch all the way down to the other side. Okay, and it really can be very relaxing doing this, and don't stress about the stitches being exactly the same or anything. Just that they are fairly consistent and will be strong enough to hold your bag together. That's what we're going for. Okay. And I'll be putting 2 or 3 stitches each time now on the needle. Okay. Just relaxing. Okay. Check on the other side. Everything looks good. Okay. So now you just motor on down until you get to the end. And when you get to the folds, just make sure that they are lying down nice and flat. Okay, like that on both sides. Okay, and I think I might have just enough thread, just barely, to finish it. And there are some tricks if you run out of thread on your needle. You can see them on YouTube, but there are some different ways to make knots if you just barely have enough thread. Okay, there I am, meeting up with the pink. So I'm pink thread, so I'm going to make my tiny knot, tiny stitch. And you see how small my loop is. I can just get through it and pull. Okay, cut the threads. And really now you're just about done. You'll reach inside. Okay, like this. pull your bag right side out. Push out the corners with your fingers. You'll know where they are. Just push them out gently. There you go. And then you'll have your bag, and I'll hold it up in a second. I just want to show you the one last thing to do is to cut out your big basting stitches that we did at the very beginning, right? And all you do to do that is grab one clip, and then you can just pull these out like that. A little baby one, and then just clip the last thread. And that's your bandana bag. So let me put the camera up. Go. And it should look something like, there we go, like that. Okay, and it's nice, it's sturdy, it's really easy and fun, and you'll have the only one like it. And there's the stitching to put the straps on, and it's all explained in the instructions too. Yeah, so it's a really fun project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I made it only a first part.
Yeah, usually you can do one half during the session, and then you would do the other half after, just stitch them together and you'll be ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyone is brave enough to show what they did, you're welcome to do it. Thank you, Ellen. It was very nice and very easy, I have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I love your materials.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
nice.
Okay, well, everybody be safe. Have a good evening. And thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. And we will be posting videos. I will email everyone when it's on our YouTube channel.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and I'll send you one. I'll send you the one that I have too, okay?
Yes. Actually, I need yours, Ellen, because you started recording and I couldn't. It's showing that that it's recording. I hope I can find it. But you also said that you will send me instructions, right?
Yes, I'll send you both.
So I can email instructions to everyone.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
I'm so grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.